if you could be the best in the world at what you do, but if no one knows you exist, then you're not going to be successful. I took a bet on myself. My transmission blew up on my car. When you're delaying something, it's really about fear of failing. When you're vulnerable, you're more open to criticism. Sales is just psychology and math combined.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new episode of Redesign Your Life Today, the podcast where we explore the stories, the insights, and the breakthroughs that help entrepreneurs and professionals create a life of business aligned with their true potential. Today, we've got a very special guest. I'm privileged to have Leesa Blankert with us. Leesa is a marketing strategist with a background in psychology who made a bold transition from working nearly a decade in the public school system to building a career in the world of online marketing and entrepreneurship. Leesa brings a fascinating blend of psychology, marketing, strategy, and real world honesty, helping entrepreneurs understand not only how to grow their visibility and brand, but also the deeper human dynamics that influence trust, connection, and buying decisions. So, Leesa, again, it's really a pleasure to have you with us. And
Thank you so much.
you're welcome. And my first question is, okay, this was a brief introduction, but I'd like you to introduce you a little further and what made you do what you do today? Broadly speaking, who is Leesa?
Well, thank you. That was such a well-spoken introduction. I couldn't have said it better myself. Really appreciate that. So yeah, I got in the world of digital marketing. I've been running a small marketing agency for going on almost 4 years now, like you said, after a decade of working in the public school system. And
Mm.
I really enjoy supporting small business owners, whether it's redesigning their website and not just designing things so they can set it and forget it. It's about designing something that's setting them up for success and getting them the traffic they need and like you said, visibility they need. And that's what more business owners are looking for. And that's what's great about your podcast is that people get that visibility and exposure. I had a business coach that was amazing. He runs an agency himself that's very successful. And he said to me once, and he gave me a really hard truth. He said, if you could be the best in the world at what you do, but if no one knows you exist, then you're not going to be successful. So if you're very shy like me and you don't push yourself outside your comfort zone and you're doing all the things but not getting where you want to be, it's a lot of times you're not being visible and you're not pushing yourself. So it's about showing people you exist and putting yourself out there, which I'm grateful for your show because that's how people get to have these conversations and have these opportunities and learn like you can take a chance on yourself. And one of my favorite salespeople, that's a high ticket salesperson, said that to me. And he said it very confidently. He said to me, I took a bet on myself. And I love that he said that. I think it's about taking a bet on yourself.
Well, thank you so much. I mean, really already beautiful insights, Leesa. And you spent 10 years working in public school system before you moved into entrepreneurship. What sparkled that moment where you realized it was time to pivot?
Oh, that's a really good question. I love this question because I have an answer that kind of led up to it. I was driving home from a school one day, and it was a really hot, sunny day, like 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and my transmission blew up on my car. And I thought, well, first of all, it was a very scary moment. I was at the top of a hill with a blown transmission and I was scared of rolling backwards. And it was that moment that was a lot of people call it their line in the sand moment. That was my line in the sand moment of being like, this isn't working for me anymore. And I thought, why should I go back to a role where I have to go panic and go purchase a vehicle when I can start, I have a perfectly good computer at home. So I found out if I could work from home, if I could be doing these other things on the side and applying my knowledge and just growing that way too. So learning and growing as I went along. So that was my moment, my line in the sand moment where I was like, this isn't working for me anymore and I need to make a change.
Beautiful, beautiful. It's realization that sometimes, and some people say that everything happens for a reason. It's no coincidence that sometimes there's a calling. It's like, even if we don't want to do it, it's just there's this things happening which makes, oh yeah, now it's a sign I've got to change. Does it
In the
resonate with you?
moment, it totally does. In the moment, you don't see it.
No, it's
I had such a moment of panic. I was
of
stuck
course,
in the biggest hill with a blown transmission, and I was literally shaking with my foot on the brake.
of course.
Like in full panic mode, thinking I don't want someone to hit my car. So I had to put my four ways on so no one would hit my car. I had to wait. My foot was on the brake. I thought, oh my God, my next thought was I need to crank the e-brake so I don't roll backwards down the hill. So I cranked the e-brake. The car was stuck. I called in Canada here, we call it BCA, where they come rescue you or they come tow your vehicle. And they said to me, we'll be there in 2 hours. I said, I'm obstructing traffic in the middle of the road. Can you come quicker? They said, we're really busy right now. So it wasn't until I got rescued and the tow truck finally came that the panic mode was gone and I was able to get out of that situation. So I finished off, it was at the end of June. I had to finish off the school year at that point in time. So it happened the beginning of June, and then I had to get some rental vehicles to finish out the school year. And I called HR in September and said, are there any work from home options? And they said, no, unfortunately, there aren't. You can risk going on call. And I had worked quite a few years to get off being on call and secure permanent status. So I thought, that's not going to work. And it's really stressful risking being audited, being back on call. So I thought, I have no other choice but to start working remotely. And for me, it was my choice too. I could have made it work with being on call or staying in the schools. And I thought, you know what, it makes more sense for me to work from my computer. So I started working from my computer. And from there, I just grew. I picked up different contract positions. Some of them were in Canada, some were in the States, and I just grew from there. Some of them, it wasn't always easy. They were some startup companies. So they would do reductions in force where they couldn't afford to keep their staff and they would do some layoffs. And that was a struggle as well too, because I started out, I didn't just full on say, okay, I'm going to make my own company right away. It took time to build. And so I started picking up the contracts, and some of those didn't last as long as I'd hope when they did the reduction in force.
Wow. This is such a powerful story. Thank you for sharing, Lisa. And see, before we talked about visibility fear, and so many entrepreneurs struggle with visibility. I did. I used to. I tell you. And how does understand and no, from a psychological perspective, what do you think is really happening beneath the fear of being seen?
Love that question. I feel like when you procrastinate, and I saw something recently that's like the psychology behind procrastination. And it's about when you're delaying something, it's really about fear of failing.
Mhm.
So when you're being seen, it's exposing all of that. It's exposing the fact that you did fail in the past, and maybe you're not proud of it. Maybe you're embarrassed to say something like that, right? Like, oh, it didn't work out for me. It took me multiple attempts. Some people are worried about exposing that, right? It's like with Brene Brown and what she speaks to on a lot of her leadership too is about the level of vulnerability that you have to bring out too. I think that's a huge portion of it because when you're vulnerable, you're more open to criticism and people will criticize you. You will have people that don't support you in your journey, but it's about finding those people and you speak to networking a lot too, which ties into it, I believe too, is finding people that understand what you're going through because they're also going through the same thing and connecting with those people. And every time you're scared of doing it, you think about those people, right? I think about the sales leader that said he took a bet on himself and he's out there doing it, right? And he's out there getting rejected on sales calls. He's doing it. And the people that criticize him and say, oh, this is a scam or this doesn't work, they're scared of doing it, right? They're scared to get rejected. Like he's getting rejected every single day. He's not always showing that. And maybe he reveals it to the people he's training, you know. You have to be, he even says, like, you have to be going through every sales call. And it's the people that get continually rejected that look through their sales calls and go, okay, what could I be doing better? Instead of the people that are looking at it and going, oh no, I got rejected. This isn't going to work for me. They're continually improving and growing. And it links to that level of personal development. And it's about kind of relentlessly working on that.
Well, thank you so much for sharing. See, I'm a mental fitness coach. So I said I help people understanding these saboteurs, which are in the subconscious mind, which are holding them back from living the best life they can. Like, for instance, we all judge ourselves. Sometimes we are people pleasers, we are controllers, we are perfectionists. And when we realize that actually this comes from our very, how do you say, very young age, the first 7 years of our lives, but this is not us. These are programs, and we can change the programs. And what you said, it's so powerful about salespeople and the rejection, because actually some people see sales, actually a rejection, as an opportunity. Oh, what can I learn from that? What can I do different? And I really like this acronym, which I once heard, which is NO stands for next opportunity.
Yeah, I've heard
So,
that one too. I actually work with a teacher that taught her students that, her grade 5 students.
well, you see, and something came to mind as well, Lisa, like just to share quickly, is that when you said, some people will criticize you, some people will judge you, but when you learn that actually not taking things personally is one of the biggest skills you can fine tune, because it's whenever people do this, criticizes you, that it's got nothing to do with you, nothing. It's only them
Yeah,
reflecting their own childhood trauma, their insecurities, their fears, their doubts. So when you start shifting your mind, and it could be family as well, could be anyone, you're not going to change others, but you change what you make of that.
completely. Yeah.
So and obviously, a question is as well, how psychology, because you've got a great background, obviously, in psychology, how is it help, helping in the marketing world? And how does understanding human behavior give entrepreneurs an advantage when they are building a brand?
Human behavior and brand development and sales are some of the biggest things to learn when you apply to psychology. There's this famous saying too that people buy people. And
Yes.
when you're purchasing from a brand, you're really purchasing from the person that's representing that brand. And that's why people even specifically coach on personal branding in and of itself, because when you're buying from a company, you're not just buying the company, you're buying the salesperson that you love from that company. So I think that's a really key component of it too. And I learned a really cool tidbit from another mentor of mine that once said, psychology is just, sorry, sales is just psychology and math combined. And that changed how I looked at sales and selling forever because I thought, yes, it's about understanding the person behind what you're trying to sell. And then the transaction component comes in on, okay, this is what's involved in the sale. And then the structures of however the company's got that set up. So whatever that looks like, okay, here's a payment plan. If it's challenging for you at this point in time, for example, and then the structures of however they complete the sale. So I think it's really about understanding that overall in marketing. And marketing is also exposing yourself to people repeatedly. So the best marketers, they don't just share something with someone once, and the psychology of that's huge. So if people see your message once, they might say, okay, what's this? But then all those psychological factors you spoke to play in there. Their insecurities of if they're too scared to commit to something. So it might take them 4, 5, 6 times of seeing your message before they're like, oh yeah, you know what? Maybe I can do this. And this person is modeling that it's possible. And if they're showing it's possible and they're not much different than me, they're only human too. So if they can do it, I can do it. So it takes time to slowly get that into people's heads that just like the salesperson that I look up to, he took a bet on himself. That's the same thing. It takes people time to realize, okay, I can take a bet on myself.
Yeah, I mean, this is yeah. So again, yes, so powerful. And so when you meet when you meet entrepreneurs, for instance, Lisa, who are kind of afraid of sales, so it's not for me, I'm not good. What's your advice to them?
Sales does not have to be cringy, and anyone that wants to try sales can. It's about finding your way of doing it. So whether that's relating to the person, so relating to how that person thought and feel like how you might have. And I think that people that find sales cringy, maybe like you said, like it applies to what you said. It's just some of those saboteurs coming in where they're like, oh, or maybe they had a bad experience in sales and they're projecting that off. A lot of people have bought things that they're like, oh, that person sold that to me and I didn't get the benefit I wanted from it. Therefore, they resent the next salesperson. I think that comes in a lot too, and people aren't always going to articulate those things. And like you spoke to as well too, it's about a lot of those subconscious things. We don't bring them out all the time, but they're there. And as we age, they compile, right? When you're young, you take risks and you do all these things, but as you're older, you're more steadfast and like worried about doing all those things because so many of them have compiled.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And thank you for that. This will be so useful for people listening. And uh, what's the importance of being fully authentic, of being vulnerable, of really being yourself in
It's
business?
everything. It's everything. And it ties back to not only your relatability, but your reputation. So if you're not having a solid reputation, you're not going to get far in business because that's going to catch up to you. If you're not honoring your commitments that you've made to your clients and your customers, you're not being integral to your word.
Yeah, yeah. This is very beautiful quote, comes from the Four Agreements, which says, "Be impeccable with your word." And when
Yeah,
you
I
apply
love
that,
that.
you see, with it, I don't know if you're familiar, Lisa, with the Four Agreements, but it was a book published in 1997 by someone called Don Miguel Ruiz. He came from a Toltec tradition. His mother was a shaman, and basically they had these agreements where the Toltecs were before the Aztecs, they were teaching their people really rules of life. The first one being be impeccable with your word. It means don't lie. When you say something, do it. Be really the word matters because and don't speak negatively about people. Don't gossip. And the more you practice this, the more you change. Because basically, when we talk outside, it comes back to us as a boomerang. The second one was uh, this don't take things personally, which I mentioned before. The third one is never assume. If something is not clear, always check. Make sure, because sometimes we interpret things the way we look at the world, but sometimes it's not this at all. And the last one is at every moment of life, be the best version of yourself. So for everyone, it's something I like to share as well because it's really very powerful. I think about disagreements every day, and so and so when we talk about branding, for instance, what are these are for you the various components of branding or attributes?
There's so much to personal branding. I think, like you said, it's staying authentic to yourself. And a lot of business owners and one of my mentors taught me is keeping personal values. So, what are your brand values? A lot of people don't take the time and set the time aside to just be like, what are the values of my company, and how is that going to translate to the staff that I hire?
Hmm.
So if like you're talking about being integrity in your business, what does that look like every day when you're practicing and you're operating? So that looks like if a client is not happy with their purchase and they um say, you know what, this isn't for me, and they change their mind, it's about maybe you refund them. Maybe this another staff member that's done the sale, they come back and they refund them, and it
Hmm.
changes the industry because then they're not projecting those negative things that they had with a bad salesperson because they're going, oh, well, this person knew it didn't work out for me. And that's why a lot of people also put guarantees, so it removes the fear in the transaction. So people are going, okay, if this doesn't work, they will refund me or they will continue working with me until I make this work.
Yeah, exactly. It's yeah, this is treating others the way we would like to be treated if it happened to us as well. If we just remember that, just like to do things right, you know what it's and it's and so which kind of entrepreneurs are you working with, Lisa? I mean, and do you have some stories you would like to share with us of kind of transformation? Because obviously transformation is the biggest word in this
Yeah,
podcast.
it's really rewarding to see small business owners that do transform with, committing to marketing services. So I work with one business owner that was in a very precarious situation and did make that transformation forward. And that was through SEO services and getting their business more visible. So it
Hmm.
took quite a few months, and I'm always transparent about that with SEO. It does take time, but when you commit to it and you do the ongoing work, you start to see more clients come in. Like you said, the visibility ties into that. So it's about committing, and also for marketing and in the marketing industry, it's about like working hand in hand with the marketer. So it's not just like this set it and forget it thing. The best marketers that also I would hire and I want to hire are the people that tell me the truth, that are like, okay, it won't work this way, but if we work together and we do it this way, this is how we can get on the other end of this. And that's where the transformation comes in long term. And you're kind of, walking alongside each other. You're not just going, here, we'll throw this up and this is the campaign. It's about, we'll walk through this together and we're committing together. So it's not just about, here's another campaign we're going to throw up. I'm a big believer in these are not set up to be quick transactions, and business needs to be less transactional. So it's about the whole person, the whole business, and looking at those components and analyzing that and going, what strategy will serve us when we work through this together, And I think that's a really important facet of it that people are missing the mark on is, it's not just about finding all these transactions and securing more business. It's about finding how can I get this transformation for this person? What does this look like long term? And how can we work together?
Um, Again, very powerful for our viewers, huh? It's about really, it's about teamwork, it's about consistency as well, and it's the willingness to learn and to listen to other people. How important is this actually listening?
So important. And listening to the business owner, I've had business owners that come up. Business owners can be very creative. So I've had instances where the business owner comes to me and says, I did this. And I've thought, wow, that's a really good idea. I didn't even think of that. And then I can run with that strategy with their marketing. So I think it's about, like you said, listening to the person and listening to their needs too. It's not just about here, I know all the answers. I'm going to do this for you. It's about listening to their needs and how you can accommodate those and how you can grow with them.
Absolutely. I mean, it's been really fascinating conversation, Lisa. And as I said, this podcast is about transformation. So, looking at your own journey, what advice, actually, which kind of three tips you could give to anyone here listening and who would like to make some transformation, who would like to reinvent themselves?
Love this. So I think the first thing we touched on was really important. And it's a lot out there, a lot, but be visible and that doesn't just mean throw things up. That means fully commit to it. So be visible while putting yourself outside of your comfort zone. And that's something I'm continuously working on. And I think that so this that's the first one. And then the second one would be to implement, not only implement these practices where you're waking up and you're journaling and you're exercising, but also combine that with taking action. One of my favorite books by Hal Elrod, The Miracle Morning, is in my opinion, one of the strongest personal development books you can find
Mhm.
because he teaches this practice called savers. So every morning you wake up and you do all these practices: silence, affirmation, visualization, exercise, reading, scribe. And all these things are amazing and they're great, but they're nothing without combining the mindset with taking the actions. So I think that's a really important component. A lot of people touch on manifestation, and manifestation is great, but you also have to combine it with taking the actions. And my third thing is get comfortable filming yourself. I think that's really important. I admit I can be quite introverted and shy, so I think it's about trying, putting yourself out there and continuing to do so.
Thank you so much for sharing. I have to say, I'm smiling because it resonates a lot with me. It took me time as well to get this to this visibility. And but I remember I had a mentor who gave me this really good piece of advice, which was it's being visible. It's not about us. It's about the message we transmit. And actually, it's a disservice if we're not visible and if we have gifts, it's nearly a crime because we don't let other people benefit by that. And
Mm.
it's not about how good we perform, and I understand exactly what you say because I was the same, and sometimes even I've got to remind myself. But the more we do that, the more if we can help one person with one little tip, this is a win, isn't it?
I love that. Yeah, I say that too. If your message or something you did help one person, you're doing something right.
Exactly. So again, Lisa, thank you so much for sharing your insight, your honesty, and your wisdom with all of us today, and your perspective on really psychology beyond branding visibility and marketing is so valuable for entrepreneurs navigating today's fast-changing challenges in this world. So thank you. And Leesa, if our viewers, and I'm sure many will be, want to connect with you, what's the best way?
Yeah, the best way is probably Instagram. My Instagram is labagency.online. So you can follow me on there or send me a message on there. Or if you are more of a LinkedIn person, my LinkedIn is Leesa Blankert.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Leesa. And thank you for everyone listening today. And I just have one request. Please don't hesitate to share this podcast with friends, family, and people who will benefit because Leesa shared a lot of wisdom with us today, and this can be really beneficial. So think about that, and thank you again for being with us today, and see you at the next episode. Bye bye.